DAW stands for Digital Audio Workstation. It refers to all of the hardware and software used to produce music in a studio, and also refers specifically to the essential software used to record and edit music. For example, a DAW might include the mixer, hardware synths, and effects units present in your studio, but it could also refer to any number of professional music software environments, like Cubase, Pro Tools, or Apple Logic Pro. To start, let's just take a brief look at Logic's user interface. Sequencing programs in general hold many of the same windows and views for editing or arranging music, so we'll cover a few basic views here, as well as their functions in a general digital audio workstation environment. When you first open Logic, and most other DAW software, you'll see the Arrange or Edit window. This view is where you'll do most of the arranging for your various tracks and clips. Here, I have a small clip that I can move simply by clicking and dragging, and I can click on the Edit menu and get access to all the different edit functions available to me for clips. I can also add or remove tracks with the Track menu, and change other options with the Region, Audio, and View menus. Farther right, I can choose at what resolution my track or clip movements snap to. If I want my movements to snap to the nearest downbeat of a measure, for example, I can choose Bar. Now, my clip can only be moved by a measure's worth of time. Finally, I can select various tools to help me further edit my data. You can also split clips into pieces in order to move chunks around, or splice two clips together. Let's say I wanted to get rid of the extra space that I have in this clip. If I move my playhead to where the MIDI data ends at measure 2, and click Split by Playhead at the top, the empty space is now its own clip, which I can just click on and hit delete. On the left, the inspector window gives you information on the current track selected and lets you view the channel strip for that track here on the left, as well as your main output on the right. Here you can control the pan, gain, and your routing for that track. You can open and close the inspector by pressing the I key on your keyboard, if you decide you want more room for your Arrange window. On the bottom, the transport bar lets you control playback, or lets you enable recording. You also are given information on the current time, measure number, tempo, and time signature. Finally, on the right, the library contains a list of all the instruments available to you, and a number of preset instruments organized by instrument type. I'll select acoustic pianos and double-click on the first one. And now track 1 is loaded with that sound. We can close the library by pressing B to access our bin menu, and then B again to close the window. That covers what you'll see on startup, but let's take a look at a few more windows common to digital audio workstations. If we double-click on any clip in our Arrange window, we can see that the piano roll view comes up as well. This is an efficient way of entering MIDI data for our tracks, and it gives us a vertical view of a piano. The GUI, or graphical user interface, gives us information on the pitch, the length of each note, its velocity or intensity dictated by its color, and its position in the measure. We can also move the data around by clicking and dragging, just like our clips in the Arrange window. And we can enter new data with our pencil tool. Over here on the top right of the piano roll, we see that there are icons for both the selection tool, which is what I have active right now, and the pencil tool. Logic and many other DAWs have a primary and secondary tool function, which means two tools can be active and switched between by pressing a key. In Logic, holding down the Command key on your keyboard switches to your secondary tool, and now we can input new MIDI data right into the piano roll. A great shortcut for switching between tools can be done by pressing the Escape key on your keyboard. Now, we can quickly select the tool we want by either clicking to change our primary tool or Command clicking to change our secondary tool. Another important, common view is the Score window. This gives us similar information as our piano roll, but lets us see our data represented in score form. Again, the same types of tools apply, and we can edit and input data in the same way we did in the piano roll. The last view we'll take a look at is the mixer view, which can sometimes be a little difficult to understand at first. Here, we can't really enter any new data, but we can see a virtual mixer representing all of the tracks we have in our Arrange window, as well as our main output, as channel strips. Now, it's important to realize that this piano channel strip and the one shown in our Arrange view here are the same. If I change a value in one, the other changes as well. The same goes for our main output channel strip. Where the mixer view really becomes important is when you have multiple tracks and want to do things like monitor levels, add signal processing or effects units like reverb and delay, or create submixes of your project. There are a number of other helpful windows in digital audio workstations, and Logic's are accessed by a click on the window menu up here. Present in any DAW software are a collection of virtual instruments, which usually include various software synthesizers and samplers. These instruments allow users to import pre-recorded sounds and samples, or create new ones from scratch. Many of these virtual instruments mimic or are inspired by classic hardware instruments. You can open a track's virtual instrument by double-clicking its name in the I/O section of the channel strip. Here, we see Logic's EVB3, which is a software synthesizer that is made to replicate the B Hammond organ. The interface provides tons of control over the sound and behaves similarly to how a real hardware organ would. Note that, in Logic, if the user interface for any of the synths don't appeal to you, a switch at the top left lets you view all the controls that synth holds. Here is an example of the EVB3's organ sound. Just as DAWs contain various synthesizers and samplers based on pre-existing hardware, the same goes for DAW's effects units. DAWs usually come packed with a host of various reverbs, delays, compressors, and EQs, and other effects used to edit audio and create sounds, many of which are inspired by the real-life hardware or circuitry that already exists. For instance, building on our EVB3 organ example, we can add a reverb to the sound by clicking and holding sends in the channel strip on our inspector. Then select Bus 1. Note that the right channel strip in our inspector now shows our new bus, not the main output. A bus is a separate path our audio takes before being mixed back in with the original sound. In this case, the sound is going to both the main output and to the reverb bus simultaneously. We now need to decide what this new bus should contain, so we can insert a reverb in the Insert section of our bus. Now remember, anything we do to our channel strips in the inspector are going to be mirrored in the mixer view. To confirm that, let's open our mixer view, which you can do by clicking here, or by pressing X on your keyboard. Here we see a new channel strip for our bus and the reverb that we inserted into it. Note that all of the settings we selected in the inspector view we could have done in the mixer view as well. Now, our Hammond organ channel is being sent to the reverb by an amount we choose here, and a mix of both channels is sent out to our speaker. One of the most powerful aspects of any digital audio workstation is how flexible it is to meet one's needs. In this way, plugins are incredibly powerful, adding new instruments, effects, and tools for you to use. These third-party add-ons can greatly extend a workstation's capabilities. For example, the Vienna Instruments library is a powerful third-party VST, or Virtual Studio Technology, and, in this case, grants Logic access to an immense orchestral sample library. We can access that VST, as well as the other instruments and plugins available in Logic, by clicking and holding on the instrument name in the inspector view, and finding the desired instrument.